Hey everyone, welcome back to the Wealth Preservation Podcast. Super excited for our guest today. I'm running the show solo. Josh could not be on this recording, but we are very excited to have Henrik Gebbing on the show. He is the founder of Finoa out in Germany. So, Henrik, how's it going, and how's the weather in Germany?
Mark, first of all, thanks for having me. It's really, really great to meet you. And well, weather in Germany is actually pretty good. Like we are here based out of Berlin. It's been sunny for 10 days straight or so, which is not normal, but we enjoyed very much. We had a terrible winter, like very gray, rainy. So now you see the city kind of like springing to blossom now. So everyone is like on the streets. It's great to see.
I should have had a little bit more forward thought and been like, this is a recording that should be done in person. I'm going to have to write this off as a business trip and just go out to Germany. I just, little bit of, a little bit of
I
hindsight
would have
there.
totally shown you around. That next time
Yeah,
we do that.
yeah. Awesome. Well, hey, we're really excited to get to know you, get to know a little bit more about your company and what you do in the crypto space. Obviously, very new industry, right? It's not like we're dealing with like, oh, chiropractics that's been around forever, or like something of that nature. This is definitely an ever changing industry, and you have an interesting vision for it. But first, can you give us a quick snapshot of Finoa, what you do, and kind of where you're headed in that crypto space?
Happy to. I won't go too much into technical detail because I'm going to try to keep it rather generic. So what do we do with Finoa? At the end, we provide financial services based on crypto assets to our customer base of institutional investors. So who are those institutional investors? It can be venture capital firms, family offices, asset managers, even corporations, hedge funds who want to go into crypto and who need a sophisticated partner to help them with that. And we built the entire tech stack of our platform. So we provide them with a secure infrastructure and then the access to actually manage and grow their crypto assets. Because there's so many different use cases in crypto that are interesting from an investor perspective to create yield, to grow the asset beyond just hoping for example, the Bitcoin price to increase. And all those we supply and provide to the investor base on our platform. And all that out of a regulated environment. So we are regulated here in Germany under the German Banking Act. So a full-fledged, you could call it a crypto bank. In crypto, we don't like the word bank. It's actually what we really try to challenge and especially the incumbents. But that's in essence what it is. It's a regulated financial service and the entire technology behind it for institutional, so B2B customers to enter the crypto space. And we do that as number one here in the European environment with global ambitions. And that's who we are.
Yeah, perfect. And I should probably do a quick compliance check right now and just make the statement that obviously Josh and I, we're in the wealth management industry. We do not do crypto advising or custody. So anyone listening, this is not a, hey, we're having them on the show because we're wanting to pivot here and show you what we can do with Finoa. This is purely from an entrepreneur standpoint, getting his story and learning more about this space. It's purely educational. So let's, Henrik, let's take a little bit step back and get to know, you a little bit. So first off, when you were 8 years old, were you like, hey, I think I want to go revolutionize crypto banking? Or I won't say banking. I know that's the dirty word in the crypto space.
Yeah.
But what was your mindset? Were you a born entrepreneur? Were you always kind of entrepreneur as a little kid?
That's a very good question. But luckily, I was a bit older than only 8 years old when Bitcoin came to life in 2008. So when I was actually 8, crypto was still quite far away from fruition. And well, I always had a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit, at least if I believe what my mom tells me when I was a kid. I know that I was going every free day or Saturday. I was going to the little supermarket that we had around the corner, and I was selling off my toys or everything that I could find in my parents' basement to make a quick buck and be able to afford the next chocolate bar or so. And I think that's a bit where it started. So I really wanted to kind of do a bit of business, kind of make money beyond just getting some weekly allowance from my parents. and that worked quite well, at least for being a kid. I had a bit of cash there, and then I actually continued. Always thinking, when is the right time for me to do something and to start my own business. And crypto, when I got into it, that was around 2016. It just felt like this is the right moment. This is a completely new technology, a completely new industry that is just about to start here. Web 2.0. So the internet boom, I was still too young. That's when I was about 8 years old, so just too young. And crypto just felt Web3. This is now the time for me to be part in such a wave of innovation. And that's, I think, what then really convinced me to found Finoa.
Yeah, yeah. Man, I hope my kids take on the selling their toys to they're sitting on a gold mine right now. I'll just say that.
They don't know. They don't know how much potential.
Yeah. I don't buy any of them. It's my in-laws are a sucker for like, oh, okay, it makes you happy, and I'm just like, ooh, they could turn and it's a depreciating asset. They could turn quite a profit if they pick up your habit here. So from an early standpoint, I mean, if you had that kind of entrepreneurial itch, right, and you kind of knew like, hey, I like transacting, I like making money. I mean, was there an industry outside of crypto that you were like, hey, maybe I want to go into this, or maybe I want to pivot this direction before you settled on going into the digital space?
Yeah, I mean, tech was very early on just what really interested me and excited me. And I was doing my master's degree in San Francisco. What is it now? 10 years back. And a lot of the big tech firms, they were not as big just yet. Maybe Google and stuff they were, but Uber, Twitter, they were not as big as they are today. And I just found it incredibly fascinating to get into the conversations with such, and just to understand kind of what are they trying to disrupt, what are they trying to innovate. So there was then early on this interest in tech in general, in this super fast growing scale ups and businesses in that field. And then I was actually about to take a job in San Francisco in one of the tech firms, but then my visa status didn't quite work out, so I had to go back to Germany. Probably now looking back, that was even didn't feel it back in the day as a good decision, or I wasn't happy about it because I really wanted to stay in California. But maybe now looking back, it was actually exactly the right thing to go back to Germany, and that's where I now started my own business.
Yeah, are there tech firms in the San Francisco Bay Area? I'm unaware. I didn't know that was a tech hub. Yeah.
Yeah, like, they must have come like out of the blue, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that did seem like a bummer at the time. Like, I am in the tech capital of the world, and I'm going home. Wow. So let's start. So in school, what did you get a master's in?
I did my master's actually in focus on marketing and sales, and because I came a bit back. I did a generic business degree when I did my bachelor's, but did that always a bit with a hinge. Okay, like with the go to market, like how do you really convince customer psychology? How do you convince customers to use a product? And that was then also what I wanted to focus on in my master's degree, and I was lucky enough to get a Fulbright scholarship, a great scholarship program between the US and Germany, and between the US and the world, and also Germany. And that then allowed me to go to San Francisco and do that master's degree in marketing.
Yeah. So you were focused on marketing and sales. So I mean, when you got out, were you focused on like the marketing side, like with the tech firm you were wanting to go with? I mean, were you more on just the marketing side there and trying to go more that direction versus starting your own business?
I think initially that was the case. I mean, I then decided when I figured that San Francisco was not going to happen for me, which was actually exactly that scholarship that sent me back home, because they said, hey, this is a scholarship to exchange German American culture, and if you stay here, you're not going to exchange anything, right? You should bring the American culture back to Germany. That's what I've been the ambassador for then ever since, basically. And I then applied for a job in consulting actually with McKinsey, because I kind of figured, well, there I get the full bandwidth of different industries. I get the full bandwidth of different also verticals like marketing. And I did work quite a bit in that field in McKinsey, always in the strategy side with different tech firms, with different financial institutions, to kind of work on their strategic angle in going to market, etc., or the digital strategy, how to kind of innovate their more or less traditional business and tech stack. So I always carried that marketing piece along with me, also at McKinsey, but never really ended up the typical marketing career where you work in an agency for a few years, then you move to the corporate side. Not a typical, let's say, marketeer as you would see it in the text.
Yeah, wow. So you're told, hey, you got to bring American culture back to Germany. I mean, you should go back to Germany and be like, hey, everyone, we need more Starbucks. Here's my American
enough
culture.
Already. There's enough already. Well, I know I like the idea. So especially, I mean, this scholarship stems back from the 60s. I mean, there it was obviously very important to exchange the culture even more so. I think nowadays in the Western globalized world, it sounded to me a bit too narrow and kind of not allowing me to stay and really send me back. But hey, anyhow, the chance that I got to study in California, to do my master's in San Francisco, that marked me for the rest of my life, and it was still the best decision ever.
Yeah. San Francisco's not a place with bad food either. I mean, if you're gonna have to get an exchange program somewhere and you going somewhere where there's good food, I mean, they could have sent you to Bakersfield and you'd have probably been like, yeah, I'm ready to go back to Germany. not to disparage our Bakersfield listeners, but yeah.
Especially on a budget. As a student, I was on a very tight budget, so my nutrition probably not the proudest period of my nutritional time.
Well, I mean, that's what college is for. Well, let's go into a little bit about that, because you didn't go the typical marketeer route, right? So at what point, or was there a certain event or story you can tell about when you decided, hey, I'm going to shift from what I'm doing to, W-2 work, right? Or taxable income, to I'm going to create, I think I need to create a business. I think I need to go the entrepreneurial.
I'm not sure if I had this like one aha moment sort of, but it was just, it came over time, like I was working in consulting. It's a hamster wheel. I never really enjoyed it too much. I saw the senior partners in the firm, and I kind of knew that's not going to be me. Like I just didn't find that very inspiring, and neither the work nor the lifestyle, both somehow. And so I was always thinking, well, I want to do something else. And then I actually got the chance, luckily with McKinsey, to do an MBA program. I did that then in Spain, here in Europe, in the capital, Madrid. And that was just for me kind of this period to be another year out of work, really focusing on, like what I want to focus on. Of course, there was this MBA program and I had to go to classes and stuff, but just left and right, I was able to kind of look beyond the horizon, what's out there. And as I said, I already before that I started just playing around with crypto privately. Just from first minute, I was super engaged with it. I found it super intriguing. I found the technology behind it super intriguing. Just kind of getting into the ideology of decentralization and the Bitcoin white paper, like really the idea behind it just fascinated me. And then during that MBA period of 1 year, I really thought, well, it's such an amazing opportunity there in this market. The kind of the user experience that I, as a user of crypto, kind of go through is really not quite there yet to get into mainstream adoption, because it was very cumbersome. I bought some crypto for my parents, and I could have never explained them to do that themselves. So and with that, I was just kind of thinking, well, that is not mass adoptable just yet. If I already need so much time to kind of understand and kind of figure out my way in, and also figure out how to securely manage that environment and not fall for scams, not fall for cyber threats or whatever. And that was then kind of maybe the not inflection point, but inflection period, where I then, together with my now co-founder Chris, who was my roommate as well in the MBA, kind of sat down and said, hey, we both don't want to go back to our jobs. We both super excited about crypto. It's such an infant industry, and you still call it an infant industry. Just imagine in 2017, 18, when we started, it was even more so an infant industry. Let's try something. Let's try to solve, first of all, our own problems that we see in our day-to-day interaction with crypto, and let's think a bit beyond, what's needed over the next years to build a successful industry. It wasn't even so much just thinking, how do we build a successful company just yet. It was more, how can we be part in that industry, right? And then and that's over time how we then developed and pivoted to what Finoa is serving today.
Yeah. And I mean, it's typically with entrepreneurs, or I guess always with entrepreneurs, I'd say typically with people in general, they kind of see that like, oh, because you mentioned I saw the senior partners, and I was like, I don't really think that's for me. And it's kind of funny that, because you're in marketing and psychology, it's like, I don't know what it is about people that some people see the senior partner and they're just like super attracted to that lifestyle and everything. And then we had another guest who he got his master's in engineering, and then, after a little while in his field, like went the entrepreneur route, because he was just like, you get a status increase and it's 10% pay bump, but 50% more stress and a ton more work. Like the numbers never match, right?
Yeah.
Like he's like, and I just knew, like, I'm going to do this for 40 years. Heck no. Like, I'm getting out. So, and yes, I mean, very, so when you got in, it was, I mean, I think it's infant now. It was like infant back then. I mean, that was, because you used to need like a hard wallet and meet up with someone personally to actually get crypto, which for some people is just like, what? Like that's what, when it first came out, I kind of had like maybe I should, like, $100, I'm not going to miss this. But then when I looked into it and I was like, I have to go get a thumb drive and meet someone. And yeah, I just won't. That was a very expensive mistake on my part.
Yeah, it was cumbersome.
So for the before we shift a little bit more into developing developing what you do, was there like an influence or an impact just on being in the culture of the startup world, in Silicon Valley, that really impacted you later on?
I do think so. I mean, just the environment, San Francisco, whatever bar you go, you meet an entrepreneur, someone who works in a scale-up tech firm. That really marked me, because in Germany I didn't have that exposure. I was doing my bachelor's actually with a corporate firm, was Siemens back in the day. They kind of a thing in Germany. They sponsor you, they pay for the bachelor's, but then whenever you don't go to school, you work for them. And it was financially helping me back in the day, but thinking about it, obviously that also limits very much your exposure to, like, new stuff and entrepreneurs in general. And I think that was something that really marked me in San Francisco, to be exposed. I was a lot with Stanford graduates as well. I went to Stanford to just have a look in the ecosystem, and that really did something to me, like to just be thinking from a different perspective and looking for more the next new opportunity for me, which I think in Germany I wouldn't have kind of developed in that sense. So I do absolutely believe that was a very important period for me, and also gave me then a bit the strength and the affinity to take a risk, to leave a corporate job or to leave consulting in my past, then to actually go for something myself and start my own business.
Yeah. So shifting over to Finoa and what was your business partner's name?
Chris.
So when you and Chris started developing this idea, because you kind of had said, like, hey, we knew we didn't want to go back to a job, right? Like that sounds terrible. Um, uh, did you, when you guys were formulating what you guys wanted to do? I mean, what was it at the beginning, right? I mean, was it? It probably wasn't to the scale of what you have today. Like, what was kind of your initial like? Hey, if we could just do this, we'd never have to go get a regular job again.
Yeah, it's actually interesting how like an ideation phase kind of takes place, right? I mean, we were very much coming from the perspective that like we didn't like our own user experience to enter crypto, and just as you mentioned yourself, it was cumbersome, it was felt super insecure, and I was just investing a few $100, like unfortunately I didn't have enough money to invest more back in the day to then not be not it wouldn't be necessary to work for me anymore. Like I wasn't that lucky, but I was just investing a few $100, and I was checking, I don't know, 10, 20 times a day if those $200 were still there, because it just felt so insecure, and the platforms that I was working with, it was like absolutely not clear who's that counterparty, who's behind it, where are they actually based, what's the jurisdiction. If it's gone tomorrow and it feels like it's the platform's fault or problem, who do I call? There was nothing, and all that, at least for me, and Chris, I think, had a bit of a similar experience. Was just kind of telling me, well, there needs to be more sophisticated services, more trustworthy teams to kind of find, because also here in Europe, I wouldn't find a single provider from Europe that I could that I would really trust to work with, and where I knew kind of who's behind that company and the platform or the service. So that was then really the first initial thought was, hey, we want to build secure access to crypto out of a trusted jurisdiction, right? That was kind of the very first iteration. And then we figured quickly that, well, in the B2B, in the B2C space, in the retail space, there was a lot of noise already. That you had US platforms like Coinbase was already quite big. You had some services already in the rest of the world that were really targeting the retail investor. But from the network that we were building in McKinsey, we then figured in the B2B space, so institutional investors, there was very little service offerings. And everyone was back in the day always talking, once the institutional adoption takes place, crypto is going to explode. But then I was like, well, but with which services should they go into crypto, right? And then we started really talking to a lot of those players, so be it capital, private equity, corporates as well. And I mean, 99% of them, first of all, didn't have any crypto exposure just yet. And then this 1% that we found who already was actively investing in crypto, and to my big surprise, they were using the exact same services, Pendrive, some platforms that I was using as well, where I already didn't feel very comfortable with my €200, and they were investing, like 10, 100,000 times of that, already. And I was just thinking, like, how do they explain that even to their LPs, to their investors in the fund, like that they are handling potential volumes, but with very basic kind of service infrastructure. And that then really gave us the twist to really focus on this B2B segment, on the institutional investors. So coming again from secure access, coming then to trusted jurisdiction, and then focused on the B2B segment and not the retail explicitly. That was then kind of our journey towards what Finoa is doing now. And I mean, we also, I guess that was a bit the environment we were working in. We were exposed to regulation early on with McKinsey, and I kind of thought early on as well, but there must be, this was completely unregulated in 28, right? But I was sure out of Germany, for example, there will be regulation coming in rather sooner than later. So we also always said, well, if that takes place, we really want to be regulated early on, because that is again giving us much more access to traditional investors who are looking for regulated partners, who need regulated partners, sometimes legally as well, to move into a certain asset space. And I think that then kind of together, that journey of was a year or so where this formed more and more to what Finoa is today, gave us the direction, okay, we provide exactly that service, secure, trusted, regulated, towards B2B and institutional investors.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is, you know, the like you were talking about, like, hey, I then went to the big players and realized, wait, you're using the same stuff I'm using. I hate what I'm using. Like, how could
Exactly.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
that's that's ripe for innovation. Because it did kind of feel like the crypto space did for a very long time there did kind of feel like the old scuzzy dude at a horse race who was like, hey, I know the next winning horse, just give me $20, and you're like, okay, but if I never see this $20, I'm not going to be surprised. Like, uh,
Exactly. I mean, especially 2017, this one the hype cycle we went through with a lot of ICOs, initial coin offerings, a lot of scams,
mhm,
fraudulent teams who were just for the quick buck. Um, that really was the time, and we were like, well, the underlying technology still has so much potential. Like
mhm,
there's so much disruption to come for the financial industry. Those fraudulent players are not going to take that away from this technology and the ideology behind it, right?
yeah,
And so let us be part of that trusted ecosystem in crypto, not the ones that like kind of taint the image in a negative way, but actually let's work on like building a trusted image and something great and lasting,
mhm,
and that really inspired and motivated us.
yeah. So moving back to your initial launch. So did you have some family members that were like, Henrik, what are you doing? You have a master's degree. You've got a, you could go get a high paying job anywhere. Why are you launching a business which is risky enough, but also doing it in the crypto space? Or do you have a lot of family members that were like, hey man, you do you, you're awesome, go for it?
I think I had both, to be very honest. I mean, obviously, as I just said, 2017, 2018, there was this so-called crypto winter as well.
Mhm.
Bitcoin had this all-time high, then dropped significantly early 2018, and there was Bitcoin is dead was everywhere in the news, and you know the always the comparison of crypto to the tulip mania in a few centuries back. So I heard that a lot of times as well. From my, let's say, wider network. My close family was instead very supportive. Like they even helped us, get started with a bit of family and friends cash very very early on. Without that, we wouldn't have been able to start after all. Because if you build a technology firm from scratch, you need a bit of a jump start. Because it's hard to bootstrap it from with revenues or whatever from very early days. And so I think that they were very supportive. They were probably, if I would ask them today, they were probably thinking, well, is that the right decision? And will that be something where you can actually build a company successfully in that industry? And I mean, we are still always showing and proving that point, because I mean, there's still a lot of noise in crypto when there is a bit of a market correction or market consolidation, then you hear those voices again in the news, etc. So I'm still in that process of proving, that crypto is sustainable, crypto will last, crypto will be, around in the long run. And I think it's much easier now to convince people, but I'm still running into individuals where I do have to make that pitch and convince. And I mean, for us, it's great to show, like we are now a bit more than 120 colleagues here at Finoa working on this, and really enjoying being part of this industry, which is growing and giving us a lot of purpose and impact for all of us. And that is just the best kind of proof how it was the right decision in 2017, 2018 to then drop the job in consulting and actually go the entrepreneurial route.
Yeah, yeah. Which you said 120 employees.
Yeah, by now, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, we'll dive into that in the next episode. But I mean, uh, that's because you guys are a young company, so 120 employees. That's like throttling from like not 1 to 100. That's like 1 to 1,000 miles an hour. In that short amount of time. That's a which I'm sure you've got plenty of opinions and wisdom on scaling up a business that fast, right? Because that's not an easy task.
It's been a ride. Yeah, and it's a marathon. Like we have so many plans ahead of us. So whenever we set ourselves milestones, but then when you reach them, you already think ahead of the next milestone. So you continue the ride. But it's been a great time, great learning curve so
Yeah.
far, and still super excited to continue.
So when was 'cause you mentioned milestones there. When was the first milestone where you and Chris kind of had that moment where you're like, I think we're officially like onto something huge. Like it was a fun concept, it was a fun idea. Now it's a serious business that's 100% viable, and we're taking off.
I think again there was like it was building up through several like moments. I mean, I very much recall our first signed customer. Like I will never forget that. Like I was opening the account myself. Like we didn't have any customer support or onboarding or whatever. So everything was basically I was doing it myself from closing the customer to onboarding the customer and then supporting the customer.
Mm-hmm.
So the end to end servicing basically. That was a great moment. I mean, I will leave. Like, we never made money with that customer. It took us so long to convince that customer to actually work with us, but it felt just like just someone put a sign to a contract which had the header of our company and the logo of Finoa, which looked completely different than today. But anyway, that was exactly one of the great moments to win the first customer. I think then the second larger validation, which also it took us, again, it was this crypto winter time. Like crypto wasn't as hot as it is discussed today. And to convince the first venture capital firms to invest in the company and to give us money for future growth. That was then in December 2019. That was also just a great validation to know, okay, now we find our partners in the market who believe in what we are seeing, because obviously we all have been questioning ourselves at times, like, are we just in this bubble? And do we really, is that really happening, and is that really coming? Is crypto really that large of a potential as we believe it is? You start questioning, especially if it just takes time to find someone investing into that idea, because you also think, hey, those are smart people. um, am I really the only one seeing
Mm-hmm.
this? And I think that validation to then get that seed funding round it was back in the day, that was just a great moment as well to okay, first of all, now we have some cash in the bank to breathe again. We were very tight, we're running very tight. We can start investing into the team, into the company, into the brand, and into the product, so in everything at the end. So that was another very important milestone. And ever since, I mean, you collect those milestones over time. In general, the year 2020 was for us this really acceleration. First time we really saw, okay, now it's starting. We have a product. Crypto is out of like waking up from the crypto winter. The customer interest is there. We can serve those customers, and that was then when we really felt, okay, now this is. We had a lot of headwind
Mm-hmm.
before, and that was the first time we felt we have a tailwind, which is really carrying us along. And I think those are the three major points where my understanding of we really are onto something here. It is a market that is growing. Our customer, or there is customers that need what we are serving. So our product market fit evolved for the first time. So that really was the most important time, or the most important milestones.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, between those milestones, did you guys experience something where you're like, "Oh my gosh, I guess we're gonna have to close up shop," right? Like just whether it was people, employees leaving or customers leaving. I mean, because like you said early on, you're not making money on those customers. You're just building proof of concept.
Absolutely. Well, we had a lot of those, especially 2019, just after we started. We thought, hey, we start and then we find venture capital and off we go. Didn't happen. We went for such a long roadshow to all different kinds of VCs. I mean, we built a great network of contacts. So I mean, that's still good to have, but it just didn't happen that quickly. And I mean, I remember, like, obviously we also couldn't pay ourselves a decent salary back in the day. So I was really again felt like the college times again,
Mm-hmm.
really being on a budget. And remember as well having some conversations with our early employees, guys, please give us a bit of time to pay the next salary. We really need to close the funding round first. So there was a lot of that moments, and when we thought, this we will not survive until that cash injection. So yeah, that's been there. But I think that's also to all the entrepreneurs I speak. We've all been there,
Mm-hmm.
and it's part of the learning curve, also part of like building the strength as a founding team, but then also as a broader core team. Because if you then make it beyond this point, and you start seeing, now we see the customer traction, that is really a moment to celebrate then, and to grow together as a team.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And because you mentioned in there the seed money too. So this is probably a good spot to wrap up, and we'll head more into this in the next episode, because I am very fascinated in you've had a lot of success early on, right? I mean, a very short amount of time, realistically. I mean, props to you.
Mhm.
Most people are like, you mentioned like, oh, I had to pay myself a little salary. A lot of entrepreneurs are like, I didn't pay myself anything for many years, right?
Mhm.
Um, so, can you tell our listeners real quick when you got your first round of funding, and then how much, how quickly you got that second round, and how much that Series A funding was for?
Yeah, so we raised as I said, very early on, we started with a bit of family and friends,
Mm-hmm.
like to get started. After all, that was early 2019. Then
Mm-hmm.
the first seed funding round with external venture capital participation was in December 2019. And then we really used the year 2020. I mean, it was the first pandemic year, right? Digital
Mm-hmm.
business models kind of like were really thriving, and we could see that as well. Crypto became hot again. We were just like, say, able to serve with the product in that market exactly at the right moment of time. And then we used kind of that 2020 traction we used to go for our Series A funding. And that was then early 2021, so about a year ago now. We raised that Series A funding round, and that was mainly then to really say, okay, now it's about time. We grew so much in our customer base, we grew so much in also the opportunities that we see in the market. So now it's about time to scale the team, because I think we were at our Series A, we were roughly 20-25 people in the company. Okay, now we have the cash injection to really grow the team, and that's what we've been doing, like in that 1 year now, from around 20 to now 120, because we have so many plans, right, to go after to increase our product suite, to increase our service level to the customers, to even go for a broader licensing model with the regulator, and all that needs
Mm-hmm.
resources that you need to bring on the team. It needs strong talent, experience to bring on the team, to then go after that vision that we have here in front of us, where we really want to be a multi-product crypto service provider, alongside the full investor journey at the end, from an institutional perspective, that gives access to all those different opportunities in crypto. And for that, you just really need to build a strong team, be a strong company, to execute on that vision.
Yeah. And how much was that Series A funding?
It was around 20 million US dollars,
There you go.
a bit more.
Yeah.
That was about that year ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's going to be, I think that's going to make, because you don't schlep around and get 20 million bucks, right? And you and then after the other challenges, once you get 20 million bucks, right, you then have investors who want to see a return, and there's a little give and take there. So really interested to dive,
Of course,
yeah, really interested
it
to dive
comes.
into
I
that,
mean, it's
yeah,
yeah,
in,
yeah.
in our
No,
episode too.
happy to.
Um, we'll dive into that in episode 2. So right now, good place to pivot, right? So before we head into the speed round, where can people find Finoa on social media channels and learn a little bit more about your
Well, you can find us first and foremost on our website. It's finoa.io. Then you can find us on LinkedIn, Twitter, in Medium, in our blog post. You find a lot of background on who we are as a company, what our product does, and also how we as a company see the crypto space evolving. So we have a lot of thought leadership pieces there as well. So that's the best way to.
Perfect. And everyone listening, as always, we will have all the links in the show notes. So all you got to do is click the show notes. We will have links to where you can go start following Finoa. All right, real quick, we're gonna do our speed round, and then we can wrap up here. If you were to go back to 8-year-old Henrik and give him one piece of advice, what would it be? Would it be charge more for your toys, or what piece of business advice would you give?
You can always charge a premium. Yeah, no, exactly. No, what would I go back to? I think I would really just tell myself, dude, enjoy being a child, enjoy playing with your toys. There's so much work still ahead. Just enjoy it a bit longer. Enjoy school. You hate it back in the day, but then it's the best time actually. So I think that's what I would really tell me. I wouldn't even give so much like career advice or whatever. I would just say this is all coming later. Now it's just about enjoy your time.
Yeah, it's downhill from here, kid. Just have fun in school.
Exactly.
What do you have like a daily habit or something you do to try and create a work-life balance? Because entrepreneurs, it can be a whole lot of work and a lot less life sometimes.
Yeah, well, I probably am not in the best position to throw those advices. Like I'm still also finding my best routine. One thing that I started since this year actually is like, told myself, just try to go to bed much earlier, try to read a little bit instead of just going either straight from the laptop or from the last Netflix episode to bed. So I did that and started getting up earlier, without kids at 6:30. I mean, Mark, you know how getting up early looks like, but so I started doing that. I really enjoy it. I have let's say an extra hour and a half or so in the morning. I go for a run to really, get a bit, me time in a sense before starting to throw myself back into the work, into Finoa.
Yeah.
So that is a routine that works very well for me.
Perfect. And then shifting off of business related things, right? So if I get a ticket, to Germany, but I only get to see one site or one town, where should I go? Where should I go? Just curious.
Well, first of all, book it in summer. That's the first advice. So don't come in winter. And then I would probably go to Munich, to the south of Germany. You have the Alps close by. You have late summer. You have the Oktoberfest, which probably rings a bell. It's just a great place to be. It's beautiful.
Munich in the summer. Got it. Boom. Booking it. And lastly, where's your hometown?
It's in the west of Germany. It's like on the Dutch border with the Netherlands.
Okay.
So very small, tiny village. Yeah.
So if I go to your small, tiny village, right? Best place to get great food and great beer.
Best place to get great food, great beer. Well, there's a bar street. That's something for that. I mean, it's 80,000 people, or even less, 70,000 people city, and they have this great bar street where you can, have a lot of like bar. You can do bar hopping. You get beer from the keg everywhere for a very cheap price. So that's probably the place I would send you. That's probably only answering the drink question, not so much the food, but that sorts out itself then once you're there.
You have enough beer, you don't care what you're eating. There you go.
Exactly.
Perfect. Well, hey, thanks so much for being on. Very exciting to dive more into the business side of getting that Series A funding, what you do from there, kind of how you've seen the crypto space change, and then also where you're going with this new seed money or new round of funding, right? Because you have a big staff now. So again, thank you so much for coming on. We will have show notes with links to everything. But yeah, just can't thank you enough. So
Thank you very much, Mark. Looking forward to the next episode.
Perfect. And then again, for our listeners, quick disclaimer: nothing we say can or should be taken as tax, legal, or financial advice. If anything sounded interesting, click on the show notes, do your own research, consult a professional counsel before making any decisions. Have a great rest of your day or night, and we will talk to you later.